Hi friends, Allie here. In today's tutorial, we're going to be making the Summer Daze Cardigan. This is a light sleeveless cardigan pattern that is made up of 3 rectangular panels that are sewn together at the end. It uses basic crochet stitches, easy construction, and the length and width can easily be adjusted to fit perfect for you. I hope you all enjoy this fun summery design. You can find the free written pattern on my blog or the ad-free, easy-to-print PDF on Etsy and Ravelry. I'll leave links to all those down below, and if you're ready to get started, let's head over to our size chart and supply list and let's get making. This pattern includes 12 sizes ranging from toddler to 5X. I'll be making the size adult small today, but you can follow along no matter what size you're making. At the top of the tutorial, I will have the different sizes in parentheses. The first number will be the smallest size, then it will go up in size from there. To adjust the width of your cardigan, you can repeat the last 3 rows as many times as needed, and to adjust the length of the cardigan, you can chain any multiple of 6 plus 2. For today's tutorial, you'll need a light 3-weight yarn. I'll be using Lion Brand Yarn's Comfy Cotton Blend. You'll also need a 6.5mm or K hook, scissors, and a yarn needle. This pattern is made up of 1 back panel and 2 front panels that are all the same length, but the back panel is wider. The directions start off the same for all, but there are just more rows added for the back panel. So I'll be going through how to make a panel once, so once you finish one, you can start back here and make the next panel. Be sure to make 2 identical front panels and then 1 back panel. We're going to begin by making our starting chain. This cardigan is worked in vertical rows, so the length of the starting chain will be the length of the cardigan. The directions above will make a cardigan that is about mid-thigh length. If you want to adjust the length, you can chain any multiple of 6, then add 2. So we're going to start by making a slip knot, then just chain the number above for your size. If you do adjust the number of chains you work, just be sure to make the same number for all of your panels. So here we have our starting chain. Now moving on to row 1. For row 1, we're going to be working back into our chain. So we're going to work a double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook, and then double crochet into each chain across. I'm just coming up to the end of row 1. Now our stitch count will remain the same for rows 1 and on. And now we're on to row 2, so we're going to chain 2 and turn. And we're going to start off by making a front post double crochet. So this is where we get all of our texture from for our cardigan, is by working front post and back post double crochets. So these are just double crochets that are worked around the post of the stitches instead of at the top of the stitches. So we're going to start off by working 1 front post double crochet into that very first stitch. So this is our last double crochet from our previous round. So we're going to yarn over, and instead of working at the stitch at the top, we're going to work around the post. So for a front post double crochet, we go in from the front and then wrap around the back of the post. Then just work your double crochet as normal, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And there we have our front post double crochet. And now in the next stitch, we are going to work a back post double crochet. So instead of working around the front of the post, we're going to work at the back. So we're going to put our hook from the back, wrap around the front of the post to make our back post double crochet. So yarn over and insert your hook from back to front, wrapping around the next post, and then work our double crochet as normal. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and there we have our back post double crochet. So these 2 stitches are going to give our cardigan a lot of texture, and we're just going to repeat these back and forth across the row. So for our next stitch, we're going to work a front post double crochet, and then a back post, and then a front post. We're just going to work that all the way across. So for our last 2 stitches of the row, our second last stitch is going to be the front post double crochet, and then in the very last stitch, we're just going to work a regular double crochet. So just keep repeating back and forth, front post double crochet, then back post double crochet, then front post double crochet. Just keep working that all the way across. And then in our very last stitch, we're going to work a regular double crochet. So I'm just coming up to the end of row 2. So in our second last stitch, we're going to work a front post double crochet, and then into the very last stitch, we are going to work a regular double crochet. So at the end of the row, our stitch count will be the same as row 1. And as you can see, working the front post and back post double crochets gave us a lot of texture. Now moving on to row 3, we're going to chain 2 and turn. We're going to work 1 double crochet into the first stitch, going back to working in the stitch as normal. So 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip the next stitch. Then we're going to double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to chain 1 and skip 1. Then double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Then chain 1 and skip 1. And we're going to repeat this all the way across. Double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, chain 1, skip 1. And this is going to create those little gaps there. So for row 3, just keep repeating across, double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, chain 1, skip 1. Repeat until you only have 1 remaining stitch, and in that very last stitch, we're going to work 1 double crochet. So I'm just coming up to the end of row 3, so I have 2 stitches left, so I'm going to chain 1 and skip the second last stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet into the very last stitch. This is what we're looking like so far. Now we're on to row 4, so we're going to chain 2 and turn. For row 4, we're just going to work double crochets all the way across. So we're going to work 1 double crochet into the very first stitch. And then we're going to double crochet in the chain space. So working around that chain 1, we're just going to double crochet. And then double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And we're just going to repeat that across. So double crochet in the chain 1 space, and then double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. When you get to the end, we're just going to work 1 double crochet into the very last stitch. I'm just coming up to the end of row 4, and we're just going to work 1 double crochet into that last stitch. So this is what we're looking like so far. And now for the rest of the pattern, we're just going to be repeating the last 3 rows. So we're going to repeat row 2, 3, and 4 over and over again until we get the right width to our cardigan. So our 2 front panels are going to be identical. We're going to work the same amount of rows, and then for our back panel, we're going to make it wider. So I'll put up above how many rows to work for each panel and size. And we're just going to keep repeating rows 2, 3, and 4 over and over again. And then when you reach the end of that, we are going to repeat row 2 one last time. So we're going to end each panel with a row 2. So just keep repeating rows 2 to 4 as many times as your size says, and I'm just going to continue on, and I'll catch up with you guys when I reach my last row. So I'm almost done working my back panel, and this is what mine's looking like so far. So I just finished a row 4 repeat. So now I'm going to work 1 more row, and I'm going to repeat row 2 one more time. So I'm going to chain 2 and turn, and then just repeat row 2 one more time. So just make sure that each panel is ended on a row 2 repeat. So I'm just coming up to the end of the row. And this is what I'm looking like at the end. So when you're all done, we're going to chain 1 and then tie off our yarn. And then we're just going to repeat our instructions from the beginning to make our 2 other panels. So here I've made my back panel. So I'm going to start again from the beginning to make my 2 front panels. So once you're done making all 3 of your panels, we're going to come back here and we're going to continue on to assemble our cardigan all together. So just repeat from the beginning until you have a total of 3 panels. So you want to make sure you have 1 back panel and 2 front panels. And then we're going to come back here and we're going to assemble it all together. I'll put a timestamp down below for where our instructions begin again. So you can just go back there and repeat through until you have all 3 of your panels. And then we'll come back here and assemble them all together. So now that we have all 3 panels complete, we're going to sew them together. So you want to lay your back panel down first, then put your front panels on top and align the outside edges. You want the starting chain of the front panels to be on the outside edge, and that's where we will seam the sides. We're going to start with the shoulder seam first though, so make sure that the top of the panels are lined up so each row matches on either side. Then we're going to cut a long strand of yarn, and using our yarn needle, we're going to whip stitch across each of the front panels to the back panel. So I'm going to start on the right side here. So I'm going to cut off a long strand of yarn. I'm going to do it about double the length of where I'm going to be seaming up. And then you're going to want to attach your yarn to the outside edge and just secure it with a few knots. So now we're going to whip stitch the two panels together, and you want to make sure that you're working in the corresponding row on the other panel. So we're going to insert our needle from front to back, making sure we're grabbing both the front and the back panel. And then just repeating that all the way across, inserting your needle from front to back, then bring it back around, front to back. And you just want to work all the way across till you reach the end of the front panel. When we reach the end, we're going to secure our yarn with a few knots, and then we'll cut off another long strand of yarn and do the same on the other side. So once you reach the end, just secure your yarn with a few knots. And then we're just going to repeat what we did on the other side for our left panel. So line up your left panel like you did with the right side. So making sure that the chain row is on the outside edge. And then cut a long strand of yarn and attach the tops together. So I'm just at the end of the panel again, so I'm going to secure my yarn with a few knots. So once we're done our shoulder seams, we're going to move on to the side seams. So I'm going to cut two long strands of yarn again, about double the length of the entire cardigan. And then you want to line up your panels so that the corresponding stitches match up on both the front panels and the back panels. And we're going to attach our yarn at the bottom, and then we're going to work our way up. So here I've attached my yarn to the very bottom edge. Now if you want, you can attach your yarn a few inches up if you want there to be a side split. So you can attach it wherever you want. And then we're going to whip stitch up. Now we have to make sure that we leave an armhole at the end. So I'm going to leave about 12 inches left unworked at the end of this. You can leave your armhole as large or as small as you want. For the kid size, you're going to want to leave a minimum of 6 inches. And then for the adult sizes, you're going to want to leave a minimum of 8 inches so that you have enough room for the armhole. But if you want to make it larger, you sure can. So just whip stitch all the way up until you get to the bottom of your armhole, and I'm going to catch up with you guys when we get to that point. Okay, so I've just whip stitched all the way up and I've come to the bottom of my armhole. So here I have, it's approximately about 12 inches open. So I'm going to tie off my armhole here. So just tie off your yarn, secure with a few knots, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. So you just want to remember how many stitches or how much length you left here for the armhole so that you can do the exact same thing on the other side because you want your armholes to be equal. So here I left about 12 inches. That's going to give me a very open armhole. So feel free to keep working up a little bit more if you want it to be smaller. But then I'm going to reattach my yarn on the other side, and I'm just going to repeat the same thing, making sure that I'm working the same amount across so that my armholes are equal. Once you're all done with the other side, we can weave in all of our ends, and then we are done with our Summer Daze cardigan. Thank you so much for following along. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. You can find this pattern and many more free patterns on my blog, whoshomemade.com. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to tag me in your photos so I can see your finished turtle trunk creations. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.